Welcome to part 2 of my review on the new BMW 4 Series. Now, if you missed my review of the entry-level 420i, you can just click the link up there to check that out, because this week I'm having a look at the middle of the range 430i M Sport. Outwardly, apart from the badging on the rear, there's not a lot to differentiate this car from the entry-level 420i. The beautiful tanzanite blue that this car comes in does somewhat camouflage the controversial front grille, which I personally really like. The 4 Series also comes with BMW laser lights. Now, unfortunately, that doesn't mean that laser lights shoot out of the front headlights and disable an enemy car a la James Bond, although that would be incredibly awesome. But no, it means that this car actually uses lasers to generate a very clean, white, powerful beam that turns night into day. It's very complicated the way it works. I don't fully understand it. We need to get Q on board to explain it, but it's legit. The driving lights also double as turn indicators. Under the hood, we have a 4-cylinder 2-litre engine that's substantially the same as the one in the 420i, but this one's been tuned up to output 190 kilowatts of power, and that means you'll get to 100 k's per hour nearly 2 seconds faster than the entry-level model. It's a tad thirstier too, drinking 6.6 litres per 100 kilometres, but for an engine that performs as well as this, that is unbelievably efficient. Behind the powered tailgate, which seems a little unnecessary in a car this size, but nice to have, no complaints from me, is a 440-litre boot, which actually looks a bit bigger than it is. It looks closer to 500 litres. It's a really good size. 2 small storage bins on either side with nets. There's a rear pass-through for long items like skis, or in my case, camera tripods. And of course, you can fold down the rear seats for even more room as well. Inside, and there's only a few very small minor differences between this car and the entry-level 420i. These seats covered in Vernesca Canberra beige leather are just amazing. They are so comfortable. The leather feels brilliant. There's electric bolster control as well as full electric adjustment for just about every position you could possibly want to get into. I just worry with this colour though that it could get dirty quite easily. In fact, this car, which has done less than 4,000 kilometres, already has a few scuffs on the driver's seat, which could be a bit of a pain to keep clean, but you know, it looks so good and it's so comfortable, I think it's worth it. In the middle here, we've got the same big centre screen that we found in the 420i. It runs BMW's iDrive software, which I think is second only to Audi's system, but even then, it's a neck and neck race. These systems are both head and shoulders above just about every other infotainment system on the market, bar possibly Tesla. The Germans really do it better than anybody else. Wireless connectivity, of course, for Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. There's 3-zone climate control, which is great for a car this size. The rear controls sit up here on top of the transmission tunnel, and you can also control the rear temperature from the buttons up the front. Moving down to the lower console, we've got a nice big panel that opens up here with the wireless phone charging, a couple of cup holders and a USB port. Moving down here, we've got the center controls with the gear shifter, a whole raft of buttons. BMW love buttons, okay? Where Audi have gone for touch screens, BMW are still sticking with a lot of old school buttons, so respect to them for that. I like a button. It's mostly the same as what you find in the 420i, although there is an extra drive mode button here for adaptive, and that's where the car reads the environment around you and works out the best drive mode to be in. It's pretty intuitive, actually. Up here we've got the iDrive dial, which I can honestly say I have not touched at all, because you can do the exact same functions using the touch screen, and that just works better for me. We've also got some shortcut buttons there for the media and the navigation system. A nice big storage bin under the armrest here with an extra USB-C input. Up on the windscreen in front of me is the head-up display, which shows a lot of very useful information, a really sharp, clear display, which unfortunately you can't see with polarized sunglasses on without tilting your head, so you might need to do that if you're wearing them. But it shows you your current speed, the speed zone information for the area you're in, also adaptive cruise control, infotainment information, and most importantly, navigation directions. We then had the digital instrument cluster, which is pretty much the same as you find in the 420i and most new BMWs at the moment. It looks really good, it's well designed. My only gripe with it is that it lacks the personalization that you get from an Audi system. You're kind of locked into the one look. It does change color and the font depending on what drive mode you're in, but that's pretty much it. The steering wheel is covered in some very nice leather with stitching. It's big and it's thick, and it's not my favorite steering wheel in the world. I prefer them a little smaller and a little thinner, but that's just a personal thing. It's pretty much the same as the 420i, except that there are some adaptive cruise control buttons here on the left-hand side, which are very easy to use, and there's also paddle shifters at the back here as well. In terms of visibility and seating position, visibility out the front is fantastic, really clear, same out the sides. The rear, just because of the high sills, it's not quite as good, but there's plenty of visibility out of the back window through the rear vision mirror. My seating position is probably just a tad higher than I'd like. I can feel my hair just touching the ceiling, but beyond that, it's extremely comfortable. Okay, I know I said in the last BMW 4 Series review I wasn't going to try the back seat again, but what the hell. As my seat reverses back into me, I think I know how Han, Leia and Luke felt in the trash compactor. The back seat, for somebody as tall as me, I'm 190 centimeters behind my own seating position. Not really a happening thing, but if you're a kid, it's pretty good. We've got more of this beautiful beige leather here. There's climate controls with a couple of air vents and 2 USB-C ports. We've got a center armrest with a couple of cup holders. There are only 2 seat belts back here though, so this is strictly 2 in the front and 2 in the back. As you'd expect from a luxury German car like BMW, the ride is extremely smooth. There's a very high level of refinement, almost no noise coming in from the outside world. It's actually very relaxing in here. There is an extra drive mode on the 430i, it's called Sport Plus. To get to it, you just push the Sport button twice. Now, while Sport mode in this car is great, Sport Plus is awesome. I swear that is one of the best sounding 4-cylinder 2-litre engines I've ever heard. Unlike the 420i, you just don't feel like you're going to run out of power. On the freeway, the 420i would get up to around about 4,000 RPMs and you'd be overtaking someone on the highway at 100 and you'd just be thinking, I don't know if I can make this or not. But here in the 430i, not a problem. BMW have done an amazing job with this engine. It's hard to believe it's the same one in the 420i. It is just so much more powerful. I still can't get over the efficiency of this engine, just 6.6 litres per 100 kilometres. It is so good. The Steptronic gearbox is really good as well. In Sport Plus, it does hang on to the gears just a little bit too long for urban driving, but on the freeway, that's fine. But around town, I think you're probably best to keep it either in comfort or sport mode. In fact, the engine performs in a very similar way in both modes. The only real difference I've managed to notice is steering. It does get a little bit heavier in sport mode, which I prefer. Can be just a little bit lifeless and disconnected in comfort. One critical feature that was missing on the 420i and is fortunately present here is adaptive cruise control. I don't know why BMW didn't put it on the entry-level car, being that it's standard equipment on cars that cost less than half of what the 420i does, but fortunately it's here on the 430. But of course what you can't see at the moment is that my feet aren't doing any of the work, and this is where adaptive cruise control is actually really good in bumper-to-bumper traffic. So rather than having to constantly shuffle my feet between the accelerator and the brake, the car's just doing all the stopping and starting for me. And this is actually one of adaptive cruise control's best features. But performance going around bends is just amazing, and there's that sound from the back. I just can't believe that this is a 4-cylinder engine. It's just such a nice noise. Starting at $90,900 and getting closer to 6 figures for how it's spec'd here, the BMW 430i M Sport really does tick just about every box for me. It's a good-looking coupe with aggressive styling, fantastic technology, and it drives really, really well. But having said that, I'm yet to drive the top-of-the-range M440i. That's coming next in part 3 of my look at the all-new BMW 4 Series.